What is a bad habit that a shocking amount of people have? Stopping in doorways. Like, bitch, do you want to get ran over? I will run over you. Just kidding. I will silently get annoyed and let it secretly ruin my day. Or at the ends of escalators. This is dangerous. I was in a mall once and saw a few people fall due to a couple who stopped to look at their mall map at the bottom of the escalator. One guy's shoelace got caught up under the stairs, and he was lucky he was able to pull out of his shoe without being dragged under it. Of course, the idiots who caused the problem were hurt too, when they fell after being pushed by the people who fell on them. The whole thing was ridiculous with the obliviousness, and then the entitlement when the idiots didn't see how it could be their fault since they had to get their bearings, or whatever. Granny. Waiting to talk instead of listening. Agreed. I will add though, and I don't know if it's just me, but if I want to contribute to the conversation, I need to be reminding myself of what I wanted to say at a particular point, or I'll end up getting distracted by the next part of the convo, and then lose track of what I wanted to say. And then it seems like I wasn't listening when I was. It's just that my brain is bad at listening, thinking, and remembering all at the same time. Maybe it's an autism thing. Edit. Thank you for all of the comments so far. I'm glad that people can relate to the way my brain works and understand it. Brains are weird. I'm not the first person to acknowledge that, and I won't be the last. It seems like people on the spectrum, or with autistic traits, and people with ADHD can relate the most, and I just wanted to also add that finding a way to understand yourself and others is different for everyone, and that is totally okay. Best of luck to you all. Being checked out during social interactions. Phone in hand, not really listening, not present. As an introvert that has trouble keeping a conversation going, I have to be so conscious of myself doing this. The second I get uncomfortable around people, I look at my phone, and I hate that I do that. I got super upset with my partner about this one time. He was able to tell me what I'd said so clearly he was listening to some extent, and I did feel like kind of a jerk. Still, we should be able to have a short conversation without looking at the phone for a couple minutes. The phone addiction is real, and I think it's important for everyone to be careful when engaging with people in real life. It sucks to feel less important than a phone, lol. Playing loud music or videos on their phone without earbuds in a community space like a library. When I was in school, I would take the bus and train, and every now and again people would do this. The last time it happened to me was actually in the waiting room for Quest for Blood work. This guy was listening to some stupid shit on his phone, and I asked if he could turn it down. Not even off, just lower the volume. Well, that was a mistake. He got very confrontational and was like, "You don't pay my phone bill," and was just a real asshole. I guess he was a walk-in because he was waiting before I got there to be seen, and he got up and left a few minutes later. The entire time he was mumbling to himself about, "You got jokes," and stupid shit like I had the nerve to ask him to stop listening to some loud garbage in a waiting room. People are beyond rude and disrespectful, and they wonder why they have a hard time in their life. I would say never changing your oil or car fluids. I was surprised when a mechanic told me that 90% of people never maintain their car. Which is crazy, because if you don't own a house, your car is probably the most expensive thing you own. Social media/phone addiction. How many of us do anything without our phones now? When's the last time you left your house without it? The last time you forgot your phone or lost it, how anxious did you feel? Every time I try to slow down on my usage, I do good at first, and then I have a day where I could be doing anything else and I still go to my phone and waste the day away. I'll absent-mindedly pull it out while I'm watching TV too. Or playing video games. Here I am at work on it again. I'm rarely on my phone outside of killing time at work, but I would absolutely never leave home without it. Now that I have constant access to emergency services and friends/family have constant access to me in case of an emergency, I could never go back. Materialism. Buying stuff just for the sake of buying it, not because you need it. I think a lot of people have this huge empty hole in their souls that they constantly try to fill with more and more stuff. Lying. Probably the biggest shock I got from the real world once I started adulting is how much people lie and try to manipulate. It's disheartening. 8 out of 10 times when I glance at the driver next to me on the interstate, they're staring at their phone. No exaggeration. It's terrifying. I'm still not sure what's become so important in the last 15 years or so that people need to risk their lives and the lives of everyone around them just to look at a screen. Chewing with their mouths open. I hate eating out in public because the sound of people smacking their food is all I can hear. Buying shit you don't need. and often don't even really want, but nonetheless convince yourself in the moment to buy now. Even people who pride themselves on being frugal or otherwise are budget conscious can still easily fall into this and make exceptions enough that they wind up in a similar space. Related, it's easy to buy new stuff, but people often overlook the maintenance and upkeep of the stuff they buy. Often simple items, keeping something clean or changing a filter or whatever. Most things we buy have some amount of upkeep, and it's easy to ignore that part until it all adds up and becomes overwhelming. Poor financial habits that lead to little to no financial freedom or security. I'm not saying that anyone is going to get rich or pay for a house by avoiding avocado toast or lattes. This is a goofy idea that needs to die, but there are a lot of financial mistakes that I see regularly. Most of them relate to big items like cars, property, furniture, unnecessarily expensive electronics, and that type of thing. That is where money tends to get wasted, not so much food. Here are some examples of what I mean. My relative, who is almost perpetually broke with 2 kids, just bought a Tesla for $80,000. They run out of money for groceries and home repairs on the regular. My colleague, who is struggling with student loan payments and frequently runs out of money before the end of the month, bought a $4,000 mattress last year on credit. My BIL, who is currently unemployed and worried about the future, recently took his kids on a 2-week holiday out of the country, including plane tickets, hotels, entertainment, and loads of shopping he did while away. He probably spent several $1,000s on this. Again, he has no job and there's nothing lined up. My retired aunt, who is selling her almost paid-off house to buy a house that is slightly more expensive because, and I quote, "I just really love it." She's not wealthy by any stretch. She's already struggling to make ends meet. It would be smarter to downsize, but she's randomly decided to upsize. The world is full of people who don't have even 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund but recklessly spend money, or even worse, rack up debt, to buy or own things that just aren't necessary. I'm not exactly thrifty myself, and I believe that everyone should splurge sometimes, but financial security and peace of mind is so underrated. Belching and farting in front of others. No one wants to smell what you had for lunch or your ass. Not washing your hands, especially after using the bathroom. I remember at the start of COVID when all that media was around for the proper way of washing your hands, and my boss was like, "I've been doing it wrong all these years," and I was like, "What? How have you been doing it?" There are many bad habits that people have, but one that might be surprising to me is procrastination. Procrastination is the act of delaying or postponing a task or decision that needs to be done, often for no good reason. Procrastination can have negative consequences on one's productivity, performance, health, and happiness. Regular drinking. Nearly everyone I know is an alcoholic and they just don't realize it. I am 34, and my entire family and most friends I have will drink daily. Maybe not to the extent of getting drunk, but certainly tipsy. 2 of my cousins showed up to Thanksgiving dinner drunk this year, at 4 p.m. They are 28 and 31. Maybe it's because I choose to live a pretty healthy lifestyle, including what I choose to consume. I'm very active and love the outdoors. But sometimes I just feel like I don't know very many people who are like that anymore. Most people I know are content with drinking every night, waking up in the morning whenever they feel like it, and then sort of crawling through their day with what limited energy they have left. I tend to approach life more like I want to feel my best every day. I mean that in a non-judgmental way. I just wish people cared more for their health than they do. Horrific table manners. Watching someone shovel food into their mouth like they're some kind of beast is so disturbing. How is it possible they never learn to sit up straight, cut their food into smaller portions, bring the food to their mouth rather than bringing their mouth to the food, lol? I'm in America and we drive on the right. So why do people walk on the left side of the sidewalk or hallway? We want to get places fast. Why are you going the opposite way when everyone else is walking on the right? It only slows you and others down. Just a few weeks ago I was on a walk and some person on their bike nearly hit me riding in my lane when they could have just stayed right. If this makes sense or not. Sorry.